and this is part 3 of Revelation. Now we're talking about the ambiguous book, al-kitab, al-mutashabih. The ambiguous book contains all ambiguous verses, ayat mutashabihat, of Allah's revelation, pertaining to the universal laws given by Allah to His Prophet Muhammad. Universal laws explain processes of nature in the unseen world, those parts of the universe that had not been yet discovered by the human mind when Allah's revelation occurred. In embodying the signs of the objective reality, ambiguous verses separate truth from falsehood. They represent Muhammad's prophethood, nubuwa. Unlike the definite verses, they do not contain rules of human behavior and hence are purely descriptive. They contain news about the universe and not prohibitions or permissions. The ambiguous book is divided into 2 parts: A, the 7 oft repeated verses, and B, the Grand Quran, as we hear in the following verse. And we have bestowed upon you the 7 oft repeated verses, sab'an min al-mathani, and the Grand Quran, al-Quran al-Azim, Hijr, verse 87. Part 3 of it, explanation of the book. This is inferred from the above phrase. Other than the ambiguous verses, ukhur mutashabihat, note that the text does not say the others are ambiguous verses, al-ukhur mutashabihat, as many exegetes suggest. It rather points to the existence of a third verse type that is neither definite nor ambiguous. In the following verse, we come across a special term for which type is explained of the book, tafsir al-kitab. This Quran, the verse says, this Quran is not such as can be produced by other than God. On the contrary, it is a confirmation of revelation that went with it and the full explanation of the book, tafsir al-kitab, wherein there is no doubt from the Lord of the world. Yunus verse 37. Surah Yunus refers to all 3 categories of the book in just one verse. Al-Quran, the truth, rules that went with it, explained further as al-kitab, tafsir al-kitab, the explanation of the book, or literally a fuller explanation of the book wherein there is no doubt from the Lord of the words. Now we talk about definite verses. The definite verses, the mother of the book, al-kitab. The definite verses, ayat and muhkamat of the book, for which a special term was given. The mother of the book, al-kitab, are contained in the definite book and covers the rules and principles of human behavior in all spheres of life. They are representing Muhammad's messengerhood, risala. We have established 7 subcategories of definite verses. 1, rituals. 2, the limit of God, hudud, boundaries, defining ways of non-ritual worship, ibadat. 3, general ethics, al-furqan, moral codes given as commandments, and absolute taboos, al-muharramat. 4, temporary rules only valid for Muhammad's time. 5, circumstantial rules, an example, prohibition, only enforceable if a specific historical situation emerges that is similar to the one prescribed in the book. The general notifications, non-binding instructions in the book introduced by the phrase, O you prophet, an example, instruction for the dress code of women, Ahzab verse 59. 7, specific notifications, likewise non-binding, as they were specifically and exclusively revealed for Muhammad's time, an example, rules of behavior for the prophet's wife, Ahzab verse 53. Muhammad received the al-kitab from God by way of his sunnah, applied it immediately to the historical context of 7th century Arabia. Unlike the other part of the book, Al-Quran, it does not require a theoretical understanding but allows for practical exegesis that considers the needs of society. Such exegesis, however, requires the Quran to approve and confirm it. Unlike the verses of the Quran, the verses of al-kitab do not contain Allah's word that are eternally valid and to be enforced by necessity. Nowhere in the book do verses of the definite book start with the opening phrase, and God said, Qala Allah. Therefore, the verses of al-kitab are a moral commandment. God commands Allah ya'muru, justice, the doing of good and liberty to kith and kin, and He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. Nahl verse 90. B. A prohibition stated as an imperative. Do not come close. فَلَا تُقْرُبُوهَا. Baqarah verse 187. C. A legal rule. The verse says, God thus directs you, يوصيكم Allah, as regards your children, inheritance to the male, a portion equal to that of two females. Nisa verse 11. Now, it's the ambiguous verses. Again, the ambiguous book contains all ambiguous verses, ayat mutashabihat of the book, which reveal the universal law given by Allah to His Prophet Muhammad. The ambiguous verses separate truth from falsehood. They represent Muhammad's prophethood, nubuwa. The ambiguous book is divided into two parts: A, the seven oft repeated, and B, the majestic Quran. Now it's the Quran. The Quran contains the truth. It consists of those verses that reveal what is reality and those that explain it. It embodies Muhammad's prophethood and provides such deep insights to universal realities that those who listen to it shout admiringly, "This is nothing but sorcery." The Quran's ambiguous verses occupy more space in the book than those of the al-kitab. The miraculous nature or inimitability, i'jaz, of the Quran lies in its dual nature of expressing the truth in a total, comprehensive, and absolute manner on the one hand, and of allowing the possibility of understanding it in a relative, contingent, and subjective matter on the other. This duality of containing both the totality of the Quran's truth and the relativity of humans' perception of it is what makes the Quran both eternally valid and historically viable. Humans' understanding of the eternal truth will always be relative, that is, short of the absolute. One may read the Quran from all possible angles: philosophical, scientific, historical, linguistic, religious, and such, but human interpretation will always remain partial and relative. Therefore, the Quran is the subject of successive, continuous, and progressively improving rational interpretation, ta'wil, in contrast with traditional verses that do a verse-by-verse exegesis, tafsir. Hence a big difference between them. And because of its partiality and relativity, it is bound to attract a multiplicity of interpretations, interpretation due to the sheer diversity of human perception and of the subjective ways to understand reality. The Quran consists primarily of narratives about the truth and its law and reality, but it also weaves these together with narratives, hadith, about events that occurred in human history. It never predicts or predestines such events, but records them only after they have occurred. It thus links qarana, the law and events of objective reality, together with the laws and events of human history. In its capacity as then source of both the cosmic and historical truth, it confirms what went with it. Alladhi bayna yaday is the al-kitab and functions as the latter's ultimate protector and guardian. We will explain more in part 4. Thank you for following with part 3.